Hey guys, so welcome back. Today we're gonna be reading the half fake by these people. I've never read it before. Um, it it looks pretty good. It's definitely short, but it looks okay. It looks okay. I've never read anything else on this channel, but I'm gonna give you guys a warning. I'm not good at reading. I probably have dyslexia or something like that. I don't know. I get lost easily when uh, this shit happens. So bear with me, guys. Hey, Dan, can we get a hamster? I always wanted one, but my roommate never thought that we would look after it. Phil, we've talked about this. You wouldn't look after it properly. You can hardly look after yourself, he retorted. It wasn't really in an angry way, but we never even took into account that but he never even took into account that I was older than him and I lived by myself before him, so getting a hamster wouldn't be that bad. I decided not to argue. Dan was stubborn, and I wouldn't change his mind. I was going into town later, so anyway, or I was going into town later on anyway, so I decided to get changed. I put on my usual of skinny jeans and a top on. I finished getting the few pieces of food that Dan and I needed and was heading back to get to the bus. So far, this is kind of bad writing, but it's whatever. When I walked past the pet shop, I couldn't resist but walking in, and I saw a cage with a small, fluffy, black and white hamster in the corner. I looked at the price, it was £10. It was too small and cute to say no to, so I bought it in a cage. I walked out just as my bus arrived. I paid my fare and hopped off, hopped on. I couldn't stop smiling. My hamster was one of the best things I've ever done. Or that's what I thought. Subtle foreshadow. I fuck with it. I got home and shouted out to Dan. Dan, come see what I brought. He bounced into the hallway of the front door. What's up? I raised the cage with the furry ball curled up in the corner again. The expression on his face turned from sweet and an innocent smile to sick and twisted one. With an evil glint in his eye. I love it. I was completely wrong about saying no to getting one. He sounded genuine, but there was something about the way he said it that made me feel uneasy. So what is it called? Dan asked. Can we name him Striker, please? I've always loved that name. I don't really know why. Sure. His reply was cold and harsh. What was wrong with him? I shrugged it off and I went to my room. It was only 9 o'clock, but I was tired and felt a bit ill. I pulled my PJ bottoms on and slipped into bed. I woke up during the night, my body freezing cold, and I was unable to move. I opened my eyes and they were wide with shock. I looked down. I was naked with ropes tying me to a chair. And in the corner was a sinister looking Dan. that was also naked. Morning, Sleeping Beauty. I was wondering how cold the room had to be for you to wake up. His voice sounded so fluffy and innocent, but the words coming out weren't. He was only wearing a fluffy brown hat. He pulled it off to reveal a small black creature sitting in it. Stryker. What the fuck was he doing? Why am I tied up? Why? I stopped when he moved towards me. His expression changed from being happy, like when I woke up, to murderous. Don't be scared, Phil. We're going to have some fun with Stryker. He crackled menacingly as he showed his erect member. What are you doing? Wait. Oh, sorry. Making mine start to rise? What the fuck? He put the hat down. Stryker still sitting in there. He effaced it with his length the perfect height to aim it into it. Dan, what are you doing? Please stop. He stormed over to me, gave me a rough kiss. Everything will be okay, I promise. Dan grabbed a gag from behind me and put it over my mouth. He walked back over to the hat and began to stroke it, looking over to me as he did so. After a short time, his seed exploded onto the hat. But he didn't stop there. He kept going until his hat was filled up to the top. The white liquid was nearly spilling over the top, and my poor hamster was barely able to breathe. It was doing the doggy paddle just to survive, and all I could do is sit up and watch. Dan grabbed the hamster's head, pushed it down into his own semen. After 5 minutes of his sick games, he pulled it back. He pulled it back up, dead. He snapped the hamster's head off. The neck bone shattered and making me mumble. It was supposed to be a scream. Tears flowed down my face, and he screamed. And he squeezed the blood of Stryker into the hat. He looked over at me. He was sick and twisted, but also kind of sexy. He picked up the hat and moved it towards me. With one hand, he undid the gag. Open wide, he said in a sarcastic tone. I did as I was told. I didn't know what else was hiding behind me as he began to pour the semen and hamster blood mixture into my mouth, only for me to realize he had put my poor Stryker back in there, head and body. The fluid tasted disgusting, partly because it had gone cold, but also because he knew that it was because I knew it was my hamster's blood I was drinking. He pulled back halfway through. Not that I'm complaining. He said, "Good little Phil. Do I taste nice?" My eyes widened. What do I say? I was about to open my mouth when he slapped me. Speak, bitch. Wanted to raise my hand to my face. My cold face stung with when his hot, sticky hand touched it. You taste amazing, Dan. I managed to choke out. Yeah, I do. Time for more fun. I didn't like where this was going. He pulled the black body that was coated in white from the hat. Dan rammed it down my throat, causing my gag reflexes to kick in, and I vomited all down myself. Dan smirked. And he got at this and he got on his knees. He began to lick all over me. His soft tongue was gliding all over me until it found its way to my throbbing erection. He started at the tip and worked his way all the way down, deep-throating me. It felt so nice. Most people couldn't do this, but it didn't last long. He looked up at me. He looked up at me, his innocent brown eyes making me melt. Promise you won't run? He sounded so sorry, so I nodded. He got up and untied me. He grabbed me by the shoulders. I'm going to lie on the floor, and you're going to pour the rest of the hat on me, and then lick it off, okay? He growled. Sweet loving Dan was gone then. I quickly nodded, and he got to the floor. I grabbed the hat and poured it on him. Just as he commanded, I began to lick it off him. The mixture wasn't so bad as last time. I think it's because I'm not having it forced down my throat. Suck me off, Phil. It was going what seemed to be like forever when he pushed my head away. You've done well. Oh wait, I skipped a lot. It sounded so weird. But yet I did as I was told. I wasn't as good as him. I could only fit half of my mouth before I felt sick. I was going for what seemed like forever before he pushed my head away. He pushed my head away. He pushed my head away. I'm sorry. You've done well, but there's one last thing I need you to do. He pulled out the hamster's head from the pile of the leftover sick. When you say stop, I will, but only if you think you've done good enough. I started to shake and tremble. Dan put his arm around me. It's okay, it won't be that bad. He hushed me. He was so much nicer again. Are you ready? He asked, a sense of impatience growing in his tone. Yes, Dan, I stuttered out. He quickly rolled me onto my throat. His hand placed on top of my back, pinning me down. The hamster's head, in his other hand, was nearing my rectum. I know where this is going. He rammed it in with no hesitation, and the burning sensation spread through me. For the rest of it, he used his manhood to push it in. I wanted to say stop, but he wouldn't. I know it. Finally got too much, and I screamed out, "Stop!" I looked back at Dan, who just grinned. Dan, please, I'm begging you to grinned. Come on, Phil. I know you could do better than that. He forcefully went in further. Not quite all the way, though. Dan, please, I'm begging you to stop. It's so sore. I pleaded, the burning sensation turning into a stabbing feeling. Dan stroked my hair and gently pulled out of me. The hamster's head was still inside of me. It felt horrible knowing that I had a dead animal's head sitting inside my intestines. Dan put his hand inside of me and he went deep. I cried out in pain. I felt like exploding. He finally showed me his hand with the head in it. I wished the torture was over, but I knew Dan would have other plans. But this time, he didn't. He just wrapped his arms around my hips. "Let's go to bed," Dad said, pulling me up. As he said so, I leaned in for a kiss. So did he. He walked down into my room, and when we got in, he pushed me onto the bed. I thought he was going to want sex, but he was so caring. But he was so caring, and just spooned me until we went to sleep. I woke up to find Dan with the hamster's body and head in his mouth, chewing violently, bones snapping and crunching under his teeth. And he had blood dripping from his chin. He crawled over to me and I licked it off for him. He grinned as though I read his thoughts, and he finished eating. Every month, we buy a hamster. That was probably the worst things that I've ever read. The writing was kind of mid. But, I hated that. I hope all of you who are watching this hated it just as much as I did. I probably should have looked at this before reading this. I probably should have looked at this too. I'm sorry. This is fucked. This is fucked up. Cross post on what app? Blood and gore, animal death? Like one hamster? Yes, it's the fucking hamster fic. Is this like the hamster fic? Like, what is... It's whatever. You can find it just right here. I'm not linking this in the description. I'm sorry. That was the hat fic. Honestly, The Lord of the Flies is more boring. This was more entertaining to read than that book. But this is just the worst. I feel kind of sick in my stomach actually. So this was pretty bad. But bye guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. And stay tuned for the next video. Bye bye.